Welcome to the Explainer. Today, we are going right to the heart of one of the biggest challenges for any creative person out there, the dreaded, terrifying blank page. We're going to demystify the whole creative process and build a practical toolkit to help you turn that empty space into a field of brilliant ideas. You ready? Let's dive. Welcome to the Explainer. Today, we are going right to the heart of one of the biggest challenges for any creative person out there, the dreaded, terrifying blank page. We're going to demystify the whole creative process and build a practical toolkit to help you turn that empty space into a field of brilliant ideas. You ready? Let's dive in. You know that feeling, right? It's something almost every writer, artist, or creator knows deep in their bones, that daunting, silent emptiness of a fresh page or a new document just staring back at you, waiting. It can be absolutely paralyzing. So the real question is, how do you make the first move when the silence is just that loud? So let's look at two totally different ways to begin. On your screen are two opening sentences. Now, one of these was written by a fictional character who was completely stuck, totally paralyzed by his work. The other was the simple daily starting ritual for a real, prolific, and, celebrated author. So which one do you think actually leads to a finished book?
To find the answer, we first have to get real and confront that universal struggle that just stifles creativity right from the get-go. I'm talking about the crippling weight of our own self-doubt and that deep-seated fear of not being perfect. Okay, so that first really elegant sentence, that belongs to Joseph Grand, a character from Albert Camus' novel The Plague. He is obsessed, and I mean obsessed, with perfecting this single line. He agonizes over every word, every comma, every little rhythm, so much so that he never, ever writes a second sentence. He literally becomes a prisoner of his own impossible standards. And the second sentence, the quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog, well, that was just a practical tool used by the incredible New Zealand writer Janet Frame. She would start every single writing session by typing this pangram. Its purpose wasn't to be brilliant at all. It was simply to get her fingers moving, to break the inertia and clear the way for the real work to begin. Now, here's what's so fascinating. Joseph Grand's struggle, that's something we all face. It's that inner critic, which the great Vladimir Nabokov so perfectly called the monster of grim common sense. It's that nagging voice that whispers all those doubts, telling you your work isn't good enough, or that it will never sell. And Nabokov's advice? Just before it wins, you shoot it dead. The poet Louise Bogan had another chillingly accurate phrase for the same enemy, the knife of the perfectionist attitude. And that's exactly what it is, isn't it? Perfectionism doesn't polish your work, it stabs it in the back before it even has a chance to live. So, how in the world do we fight these monsters and put down that knife? Well, it's not about waiting around for some magical bolt of lightning from the heavens. The real solution lies in shifting our focus away from the myth of inspiration and toward the undeniable power of just showing up. Aristotle figured this out thousands of years ago, and it is the absolute bedrock of a sustainable creative life. We're taught to think we need to feel inspired to create, but it's almost always the other way around. Inspiration is that guest who only shows up once you're already at your desk, actually doing the work. And building that habit doesn't have to be this huge, monumental task. It can be just half an hour a day. It could be jotting down notes on your phone while you're waiting for the bus. You can experiment with little rituals, like a specific playlist or a favorite chair. The key thing to remember here is that consistency is so much more important than quantity. You just have to show up. Okay, so we've built the foundation with habit. Now what? How do we actually get the ideas flowing? Let's explore two really powerful techniques designed specifically to bypass that internal editor and tap directly into your most creative thoughts. First up is Freewriting. And it's as simple and as liberating as it sounds. You set a timer for, say, 10 minutes, and you just write. You don't stop, you don't correct typos, you absolutely do not judge. You just follow that stream of consciousness wherever it wants to go. The goal here is just to let the words tumble out and uncover connections and memories you didn't even know were hiding in there. The second technique is called clustering. This is a more visual method that helps you sidestep that logical, linear part of your brain. The part that loves to organize and sometimes get in the way of your initial thoughts. It's a super powerful way of mapping out your ideas and just letting associations bubble up organically. And this slide gives us a perfect example of what a cluster looks like in practice. You start with a central word, in this case ice, and then you just radiate outwards, capturing every thought, image, or feeling that comes to mind. Iceberg, submerged, hidden.
Iceman, cart, horse. You're basically creating a blueprint of your unconscious mind right there on the page. It's pretty cool. And the process is incredibly simple and intuitive. You start with that main word, and then just let your mind free associate. Don't censor yourself at all. Follow every connection, no matter how strange it seems, until a branch runs dry. This isn't about logic. It's all about generating a wealth of raw material before that inner editor even has a chance to wake up and start complaining. So now that you have these fantastic techniques to generate ideas, you need a place to keep them, right? A space for them to hang out and grow. And that brings us to one of the most essential tools for any creative person, the writer's notebook. And please do not think of this as some pristine, perfect diary. Think of it more like a quarry where you dig for raw materials, or even better, a compost heap where you toss in scraps of ideas, overheard conversations, and bits of language, and you just let them all break down and transform into something new and fertile. It's a completely low-pressure, judgment-free zone. And what goes inside? Oh, absolutely anything that catches your attention. Snippets of dialogue you overhear in a coffee shop. The way the light hits a building on a rainy street. Words you just plain love. Virginia Woolf called her own diary writing a rapid, haphazard gallop, and that is the perfect spirit to embrace. Okay, we've covered habits, techniques, and tools, but all of it, every single piece, rests on one final, foundational mindset shift. And frankly, this might be the most liberating and important piece of advice you will ever get as a creator. Here it is. This is the most important takeaway of all. You must give yourself permission to be imperfect. You have to grant yourself the fundamental right to write a messy, clumsy, awkward, and even bad first draft. This isn't just some helpful tip. It's an essential entitlement for every single creative person on the planet. Because nobody, and I mean nobody, gets it right the first time. The astonishingly prolific author Joyce Carol Oates, who's published over 100 books, she says it plainly. The real work, the true magic, it doesn't happen in that first flash of creation. It happens in the patient, dedicated act of revision. And this is just the perfect metaphor for it. Your first draft isn't supposed to be a polished, finished product. It's about feeling your way around in the dark, bumping into the furniture, trying to figure out the layout of the room. It is an act of discovery, not a performance. The polish comes way later, once you finally found the light switch. So by building a habit, by using tools like Freewriting and clustering, and most importantly, by giving yourself the radical freedom to be gloriously imperfect, you have everything you need to begin. The only question left is, what messy first draft will you start today? Because at its core, creativity is a form of discovery. It's a personal journey into the infinite. So keep learning, keep making, and keep exploring.